would say that the United States has not lacked leadership with respect to nuclear weapons in the last 65 years. The U.S. has been a leader in almost every aspect of the nuclear arms race during that time. And we continue to lead in examples of the use of nuclear weapons. And I'm not referring to Hiroshima here now. I'm referring to the use today, last year, and tomorrow. Now that's in some contrast to the New York Times yesterday, which said no one in their right mind can imagine the United States ever using a nuclear weapon again. I would say we are using it in this very document, using it in the very same sense we've used it dozens of times in the past, and continuously to some extent, in the sense that you are using a gun when you point it at someone's head in a confrontation, or even when you keep it on your hip, whether you pull the trigger or not. And if you get your way without pulling the trigger, that's the best use that you could have of the gun in the eyes of most people who aren't looking for deliberate homicide, but just want to get their way. And in fact, that's why you buy the gun and why you keep it on the hip or you point it. Every major candidate in the 2008 election used nuclear weapons explicitly against Iran. Every one of them followed President Bush when he stated that all options were on the table in dealing with Iran. And when a reporter asked him, does that mean nuclear attack? And he said, I said all options are on the table. President Obama, well, I said every candidate echoed that. Not Senator Gravel, not Dennis Kucinich, my candidate, not actually Ron Paul, who's very good on this subject, who said he was appalled when he heard his fellow Republicans making that statement. The one candidate who really made a real point during the debates of denouncing that idea, he said, I can't believe my ears. But in fact, as the report was, a smile came over Hillary Clinton's face as a candidate when she was told that Senator Obama had ruled out, had taken off the table, nuclear weapons against Pakistan, a nuclear state, our ally in this fight. And she realized she had him then on that point and made it clear, I don't believe you should ever tell anyone which weapons you will or will not use. In other words, it should be on the table on Pakistan. But Obama recovered from that gaffe by making it very clear that they were on the table as far as he was concerned with Iran, and he has not moved from that position. So what we have yesterday is a statement coming out and interviews by Obama in which he makes a point of, in effect, bringing up to date a little bit the vast formula of negative security assurances as of, that was in 1978, the Secretary of Defense made that. And the only way it has been, quote, strengthened is that we no longer say it doesn't apply to a country that is attacking in association with a nuclear weapons state. A complicated formula, to be sure, at that time, which was made entirely against the Warsaw Pact countries, in case East Germany or other countries that didn't have nuclear weapons attacked at all. We wanted to be clear, even though they were non-nuclear states and even though they were signers of the NPT, they were subject to a nuclear attack because, first used by us, because they were associated with the Soviet Union. Well, the Soviet Union is no more, the Warsaw Pact is no more, so we can afford to drop that complication off and simply say we won't use it against a non-nuclear state that is in compliance with the NPT as we interpret compliance and as we decide what compliance is, the controversial subject. Oddly, he links North Korea, so he specifically mentioned Iran in this case. Also North Korea. I don't see anyone commenting on the odd coupling of those two. Well, it's beyond odd. It's absurd. There's almost no comparison between those states in their policies or the threats they present, whatever, any more than there was at the beginning of Bush, George W. Bush II administration, in linking the axis of evil and putting Iraq into that picture. Iraq, as we now know, having abandoned its nuclear weapons program back in 1993. As of now, North Korea is a nuclear state. So why do we have to mention that there was an exception for it when it came to non-negative security assurance, which applies to non-nuclear states, like Iran. Actually, I haven't seen anyone make that rather simple point. I'm looking at Alice Slater here, who knows all these points. Has anybody mentioned that, Alice? You're the authority on it. So, but in other respects as well, in singling out Iran in the nuclear weapons, the nuclear policy review, which I actually read today on the plane on the way here, about 50 pages of it, I see there remains a narrow range of contingencies in which U.S. nuclear weapons may still play a role in deterring a conventional attack, or CBW, chemical biological warfare attack, against the U.S. or its allies and partners. Therefore, the U.S. is not prepared at the present time to adopt a universal policy that the sole purpose of U.S. nuclear weapons is to deter nuclear attack on the U.S. and its partners. In other words, or no first use policy. We can't do it because we need to deter, in some circumstances, conventional or CBW attack on U.S. or its allies. Where does Iran come into that one? Are we facing a threat of a conventional or CBW attack by Iran on us or our allies? When did Iran last conduct an aggressive attack across its borders? Some say several hundred years, some say several thousand years. It hasn't been recent.